Sorry for the delay. I just realized I've got a foam up over here on my beer that went for the Cap of Destiny or whatever. So, welcome to week 10. I am your host at Hot BFF with two P's, joined by somebody that has much better hair than my normal co-host. Nick Sparts is back, and he's got a little bit more flow than last time we saw him. Nick, how have you been? It's been since the off season, I think, since we had you on for anything.
Yeah, I haven't been on it all during the regular season. I'm definitely rocking the full-on pandemic poof at this point. Haven't gotten a haircut since January. It's been a while.
Nice. Yeah, I tried to go that route, and it has a lot more. Mine goes more up than out, so it looks like you've gotten past the awkward point to where the gravity finally helped you.
Well, also I like comb it, brush it, that sort of stuff to help it stay down, as opposed to wanting to, like, when I wake up in the morning, it is very much up.
Yeah, this Big Nick is way better than the one that starts for the Chicago Bears. I'm just saying. So he could actually probably play quarterback better as well.
Poor fools. He's had such a bad year.
Where the hell? I am all sorts of out of it this morning. Our Roto World's just dumb. Is there normally a player news button on the main page?
Should be if you click NFL and go down to player news.
Oh, because it was automatically taking me to season pass for some.
Oh, how nice of them.
There it is. All right, cool. We want to make sure we get you the latest and greatest. Obviously, questions can happen. Colton having to start J.K. Dobbins and Ryan Nall due to injuries. Play for me. I think Nick is going to be like glued to his TV on Monday night. And, well, it's sad it's against the Vikings. Otherwise, I think that he would be the biggest Ryan Nall fan that there is.
Oh, I was pretty stoked when he scored a touchdown. Was that this last weekend?
Yes, it was. All right, first question. So let's see if you still got this. Can you still wrap these off? You got Matt Stafford or Drew Lock in Superflex?
I will go Lock. I just overall think that they've lined up for a pretty nice game script in that one. And even if it takes garbage time again, Lock can still get it done.
He can. He's been very, very good the last couple games, especially turning it on really after the first half. And they will have Jerry Jeudy, so they'll have their full complement of skill players. Well, outside of Cortland Sutton, obviously, who's on IR. But they'll have Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, both the backs, against a Vegas defense that is not terrible, but definitely provides a neutral game script.
And also just no Galladay for Stafford. He's been pretty awful when Galladay's out of the lineup.
He has been, and it's not like their offensive line has been fantastic. And one thing Washington has developed this year is a potent pass rush. So...
And even their secondary isn't bad.
No, it's not at all.
If they had a competent offense, they would probably be in the driver's seat in the NFC East.
I think so, too. Competent offenses in the NFC East, though, just jumping around, the Eagles figure to have their complement. Finally, some form of, what this offense was supposed to look like, getting Miles Sanders back this week and Alshon Jeffrey for the first time since early 2019. So... really only missing Deshaun Jackson from what this team was supposed to be at the start. And I guess Marquise Goodwin.
They found a random wide receiver that seems to be pretty good out of nowhere. So Fulgham seems to be taking Jackson's spot.
Yeah, Fulgham, and that's what a lot of people expected Rager to do. But with Rager hurt, Fulgham really did come out of nowhere. He's not somebody that registered on radars anywhere, and we've seen that. But, I mean, I think athletically and... from a college production standpoint, he just didn't pop up anywhere as a need to watch or need to pay attention to, and then here he is. So, be interesting to see what type of volume Alshon gets. They've definitely been slow go with his return, so I don't really worry about a re-injury with as slow as they did take it with him.
Yep, and I mean, as bad as the Eagles are, they're still better than the Giants, so they don't necessarily have to have him play 100% of snaps today.
Yeah. YOLO, you only lock once. No, I lock a lot, actually. I that Drew Lock Gardner Minshew in the Dynasty League, that stack worked out pretty well for me early.
It's the Minshew part's been rough lately, though.
Yeah, I think I don't remember if it was there or another place I had Minshew that I was able to nab Luton though. So that'll at least work. Keeping with jumping around, I guess, because I feel like being very transitional this morning. No political commentary on this, but there's a joke there. What was I transitioned to? Oh, Jaguars, right. DJ Chark is healthy after a midweek illness, speaking of Luton and Chark and working the ball downfield in the week Chark had. And Jair Alexander is doubtful, not going to play. So that bodes very, very well for DJ Chark this week.
Yeah, at least gives him an opportunity. I don't know how much I trust Luton to get him the ball necessarily, but he should have some opportunities. The other thing is going to be his teams don't seem to pass much against the Packers because they don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
They just run the ball and keep away from Rodgers all game, and you can do that. So Robinson should blow up for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Packers are about middle of the road as far as yards per rush, but they like to give up touchdowns as well. So James Robinson in for a good week. You expect garbage time out of Jacksonville in this one too. So I think that it's a positive game script for a negative outcome for them, which bodes well for a passing game. Positive game scripts for negative outcomes. Need 2 flexes in half PPR from DeAndre Swift, Gio Bernard, Brandon Ayuk, and John Brown. Okay. Swift gets Washington. Gio has Cleveland and has been relatively passable, especially in, Pittsburgh. No, yeah. Pittsburgh. Sorry.
Yeah, don't like that.
I'm a week behind.
I think 100% for sure John Brown's one of mine.
Yeah.
Second one is the one I'm struggling with.
I'm probably firmly on Ayuk with that one. They're playing, San Francisco has New Orleans, which is another game that figures to, make for passing, and Deebo Samuel's not going to go. So
no Kittle, no Samuel. So you figure he's got to be high up there for targets.
Yeah, because I don't see Richie James getting another 13 with Ayuk back.
And they also manufacture touches for Ayuk as well. So, I think Brown Ayuk is the 2 I'd go with because Swift and Gio have ugly matchups.
They do. Yep. I have to start Swift in one location, but, you're hoping touchdown there. And the other thing with Swift, too, is you don't have guaranteed volume. So, with Gio, you'd at least have guaranteed volume, but I still like the upside of Ayuk and Brown a bit more out of that. No problem, Alex. Let's get into some of this other news that's come out, and then we'll look at late breaking and try to consolidate some things. So Damian Harris, hopeful to start Week 10 versus Baltimore. Not a great matchup for him, though. Baltimore, decent run defense. We know that down by the goal line, Cam Newton's getting most of that, but low-end flex option this week for Damian Harris, who has been good and efficient.
We do have the inactives just started coming in here, so.
Yeah, so we'll check those here in just a second. Or actually, I'll just start with those. That way I can skip over. Let's look there. Jaguars, Laviska Shenault, and Gardner Minshew. That was pretty much expected. Shenault dealing with a hamstring injury. Again, just works out better for DJ Chark. Robert Tonyan is going to play Week 10, so he was questionable with an ankle injury that was sustained on Thursday. So he is going to get...
Given the wins and everything else going on there and him being hurt, I would still try to avoid him, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, low and flex at best, and it's not a game where you figure that the Packers are even going to be forced into passing, despite wins. Christian McCaffrey out with the shoulder injury. That's been true since the middle of the week. Just Mike Davis is plug and play when McCaffrey doesn't play. Jair Alexander. Go ahead.
He seems to be getting worse every week, though, it seems like.
Well, Mike Davis... Yeah, and it's really based on teams, I think, adjusting and knowing that, hey, we've got to worry about this. But, as they focus there, you have seen DJ Moore start to trend up a little bit, and Robbie Anderson is still having a solid season. Also, Teddy. Teddy's been high in stream the last couple weeks.
Yeah. I would like to see Teddy put it together just for one monster game, but he's been more just middling.
He has been middling, but from a betting perspective, which is another wrinkle we throw in, though, Panthers have been one of my favorite bets this year, just based on spreads and how closely they tend to play teams. Which is, last week, a couple guys that text me and stuff for advice there. We're all over Chiefs. I'm like, no, I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think you're going to get double-digit spread out of this game. This one's going to be closer than you think, and it was, because Carolina just plays teams close. They're a couple pieces away from competitive, really.
Yeah, they need to get the defense a little better for sure, because their defense is still bad.
Right.
And then, but yeah, the offense is at least close when McCaffrey's healthy.
It is. Packers without Jair Alexander and Kevin King, so down 2 of their top 3 cornerbacks.
Yep. So yeah, definitely a good spot start for Chark. I don't know that I'd go Conley or anybody else though.
No, I wouldn't get cute with that game, especially if wins like you mentioned. But Texans, no surprise inactives there, unless for some reason you're expecting Kiki Kuti to be active, just because I wanted to say his name. No other reason for that. Golden Tate active for week 10, missed last week due to team suspension. Being 3 receiver sets, probably. We did see Austin Mack jump out and have a large game, though, in his absence. So it'll be interesting to see if that mixes in, if Tate is falling out of favor. That's more of a dynasty note than anything, because I guarantee you Austin Mack is out there on waiver wires, unless you're in a super deep.
We're definitely in a few where he's not available.
Oh, I know. Let's see, including Dan's home dynasty league as of this morning, because he opened up unlimited IR for whatever the injury is, because he didn't want to track it. So I've used all the available IR spots. Let's see, no surprises for the Bucks. Keyshawn Vaughn's inactive, which whatever. Kenny Golladay inactive. TJ Hawkinson looks like he's actually going to go. He was dealing with a couple different injuries throughout the week. It was his ankle and a toe. But Hawkinson is going to play. For the Browns, no surprises there. Nick Chubb makes his return this week, so he'll be landing in a split with him and Hunt.
Chubb is going to wreck this week against the Texans.
Yeah. Need 2 from these gross options. Boston Scott, Keelan Cole, Jacob Hollister, Darren Fells, JaMychal Hasty, Malcolm Brown. Currently has Malcolm Brown and Boston Scott in. So let's look at the glaring omission here. First off, Tevin Coleman not playing. Raheem Mostert still out. Hasty and McKinnon will be your 2 backs for San Francisco, and I would almost rather play Hasty over either of those 2. Just knowing how the Niners use their backs, we've seen Malcolm Brown, kind of fall into nothingness volume-wise. I mean, I don't want to say that he's not used, because he is, but Darrell Henderson is the top back right now in Los Angeles, and with Miles Sanders back, Boston Scott's more relegated to, kind of that 60-40 type of split, whereas we know the Niners will ride hot hands. So I think you get more upside out of Hasty.
Yeah, and you need 2. I think the second one, I'm going to go Cole. Either Cole or Fells, I think.
Yeah, and I would probably go Keelan Cole. You mentioned wind in Green Bay. Do you have that handy, what that projection is?
Sure.
Because
we're getting smacked with it here, and we're not that far away from Bay.
We're getting a little bit here as I look out my window and see the rose bushes blowing.
I've got deck chairs all over the place right now in my backyard.
Nice.
Trying to get the weather report here, but it's fast. Sustained winds 25 miles an hour plus, and gusts up to 50.
Yikes. That's not good for the passing game.
But Cole generally plays
more underneath, whereas Chark is more of your field stretcher. So also game script's going to dictate probably more of that underneath passing, because again, I expect Green Bay to go up. So yeah, I think that we can come to consensus here on Keelan Cole and JaMychal Hasty. I feel like I come to consensus easier than I do with Dan. You're also a little bit more concise. So if Dan's listening, sorry. Philadelphia, Arcega-Whiteside is inactive, which you weren't going that route anyway. And nothing else surprising there for the Eagles. And we're back to where I started. We'll keep an eye on those inactives. Rolling through the rest of what we have here, though. Jerry Jeudy, as we said earlier, expected to play Week 10 against the Raiders. Mark Ingram will make his return in Week 10 against the Patriots, although he has not looked great when he has played this year, Mark Ingram.
He was so good last year in this offense, and it's just apparently he hit the end, and that was it. Because he looks very done. He
does, and Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins have been the more explosive backs. So there'll be a role for Ingram, but you're not running out to start him. Patriots haven't been that much of a cakewalk for backs, despite the team being bad. So,
I mean, yeah, the main thing that's killed the Patriots is their offense ineptitude, not
defensive. Yep. For the Dolphins, this is ugly. Matt Breida, Myles Gaskin still on IR, so you're going to be Jordan Howard, Salvin Ahmed, and Patrick Laird down to the work. So just avoid that at all costs. Don't touch that.
If I was going to start one, it would be probably Laird for the pass catcher.
Yeah, and that's PPR only. I mean, Howard's been also atrocious. Actually.
Alex got another question here. Full PPR needs 2: Edmonds, Cooks, Moore, or Williams. I think Cooks is 100%.
And yeah, Cooks is 100% a go. And let's see. Sorry, I'm looking.
Even with the weather in Cleveland, I still want Cooks in that game.
I do too.
The other one, I think Jones is going to be back to bell cow status, so I don't really want Jamal Williams.
DJ Moore against the Bucs, I guess. I mean, it's not like the Bucs defense hasn't improved, but game script wise, DJ Moore has turned it on a little bit, and I really do think that that's another game where you expect to see a game script where Teddy's got to pass, which means I think it is a positive leading script for DJ Moore and for Robbie Anderson. You mentioned Jones being back there, and Kenyon Drake is going to be back for Arizona. That would be really the other one that's in question, though, because I don't expect Drake to get his full workload. He's coming off of an ankle injury. Edmonds has looked like the better back. They do get the Bills, which I think, is going to rely on their pass catching, but they've also made a bunch of offensive line changes in Arizona, which bears mentioning. Their left guard is out. J.R. Sweezy, their not very good right guard, is back. They moved A.Q. Shipley to center, moving Ryan Jensen to left guard, which, I mean, those moves all do impact the running game there. And I don't think it's a net positive. So I'm probably leaning DJ Moore is the roundabout way to go there. I could make a case for Edmonds, but I want to say it's DJ Moore in conjunction with Brandon Cooks.
Yeah. I mean, Edmonds, I think, is the safer floor play because Moore's been ignored some games, which annoys me very much. But with Drake almost certainly being back this week from what we've heard, I do think Moore has a bigger ceiling, so I'd still lean Moore.
All right. I'm with you. All right. Chris Carson, Carlos Hyde out week 10 for Seattle. Alex Collins has been activated. Travis Homer got the majority of snaps, but him and oh good lord, DJ Dallas were equal in touch counts. I think DJ Dallas is probably the way I'd lean if I'm looking for a flex there, a bit over Homer, but I don't love, and I kind of avoid that situation also. That's going to be another hot hand approach.
And I mean, they're just at this point, they're just happy to throw the ball as much as they have to.
Right, which weirdly has caused some turnovers from Russell Wilson in the last couple games.
Yeah, some of that has been like drops and stuff leading to turnovers, but yeah, it's been some weird stuff there too.
Yeah, all right.
But as a fantasy owner of Wilson, I don't really care. He can chuck it as much as he wants. I'll take the interception or two.
Sure thing. Nothing else for Washington. No surprise inactives there or anything like that. The Kenyon Drake likely to suit up this week against Buffalo, as we just mentioned. He does have an ankle injury. I won't break that down again. Joe Mixon going to miss week 10 again. Not a good matchup for Gio. He is getting almost 100% of the running back work, though, so if you need a volume play, there should be some floor there, but it's a terrible matchup.
You see the other piece of news out of Chicago? Lamar Miller is being elevated from the practice squad.
I had that later. I saw that they were considering elevating him, and I was going to ask, is Lamar Miller like the biggest YOLO play you could make a case for this week?
I think it is. It's pretty good YOLO play. Though the Vikings run defense hasn't been terrible.
Bears' run offense has been atrocious in comparison. So
yeah, it's still not a great play, but it's definitely a YOLO play.
We'll see if Miller has anything less. He hasn't played since it was an Achilles, I think.
Texans, and he tore his Achilles, I believe, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's what I think it was. I think it was an Achilles injury, and he hasn't played since then. That was early last season, mid last season. So it'll certainly be interesting. The Bears have had him on their practice squad for a bit, so I expect him to be in relatively decent game shape. We know that Ryan Nall can be serviceable, but he's not going to be bell cow between the tackles type of work. And so, yeah, I think there is a role for Lamar Miller this week.
No, it was ACL. Foreman was the Achilles.
Achilles, that's what it was. They both went down in the same
year.
Yep. Speaking of Texans backs and injuries, David Johnson's on IR with a concussion, so Duke Johnson is figuring to get most of that work, if not all of it. So,
yep.
He is a plug-and-play start. Chargers, another ugly backfield situation. Justin Jackson's gone for at least 3 weeks now, which means he's on IR. Troymaine Pope, questionable with a concussion. Kalen Ballage has been activated from the practice squad again. Pope and Ballage have both split the last 2 weeks as far as being the better back in comparison with Joshua Kelly, who still seems to find his way into usage. So,
they're still going to use Kelly. Kelly looks atrocious, though. Like, he may be the... Like, considering how hyped he was at the start of the season, he is terrible.
And he had, one good game. And then from there, it's just been bad. And, I didn't see a lot I liked on tape about Kelly. And then he had that first game, so I went and grabbed him just because it's like, okay, they're going to use this guy more so than anything. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that I'm wrong, because I'm wrong 33% of the time, as we found out the last time we kept stats on that. But, yeah, he's not looked good, even though he has an insulated role. And you really don't know, though, if both Pope and Ballage are active, how that split is going to break down. So I think what you're looking for here is if Troymaine Pope doesn't go, it's a 305 game, so we don't know yet. If Troymaine Pope doesn't go, then you're okay plugging in Kalen Ballage. If they both go, avoid that backfield.
Yep, I'm currently have a hesitant start on Kalen Ballage in one league, but I've got a emergency switch available to Mark Ingram if I have to, if everyone's active,
which would be the better play. So that's a good way to go about it. Yeah, if anybody hears me, just recommend Kalen Ballage. Starting more commentary. All right, yeah. Ugly situations in running back land all around. Already talked about the Bears situation. Irv Smith Jr. going to miss week 10 for the Vikings with a groin injury. I don't know that it matters, honestly.
Unless you're in a deep two tight end league, you probably weren't starting them.
Yeah, I mean, and if you are in a deep 2 tight end league, start Rudolph, I guess.
Yeah.
We already talked about the Texans situation. We talked about Nick Chubb being active, so Nick Chubb will be active again. Ben Roethlisberger activated from the COVID-19 list. He's going to start against the Bengals, so don't expect to blow up. I don't think they'll need it. Then again, Bengals offense has looked better over the last few weeks, which I think we all anticipated was going to be the case, that the Bengals offense would come along as the season came along. A lot of talent there, but this is going to be a real test for them, and I'd rather take the let me see it without any skin in the game approach.
Agreed.
DJ Chark, good to go. We talked about him at length. He's kind of been the player of the hour. Deebo Samuel's going to miss. So if you weren't here earlier, Brandon Ayuk is returning. I'd expect him to get most of the work. Also, still without Mostert and Tevin Coleman, so Jerick McKinnon should handle the majority of that. But Jermichael Hasty will definitely plug in and get a little bit of it. Defensive news, Stephon Gilmore, questionable for the Patriots, did not practice on Thursday. But the Ravens kind of have zero passing upside. So, unfortunately, Probably not going to get anything out of that. Alshon Jeffrey back for the Eagles. Robert Tonyan is going to play. Kenny Galladay out again with a hip injury. I'd written down ankle. That is incorrect. It is a hip injury. So he'll miss. Marvin Jones will figure to grab number one work status, but he's been disappointing in that role a bit this year. So
I would say more than disappointing. It's been pretty awful.
Yeah.
I grabbed him in many places to start the year, and I've regretted it every time.
You and me both, bud. I got him a lot of places as well, and I started off the year plugging him in like the first 3 weeks, thinking you can get it right when Galladay was out early season, and it did not pan out. So, I'd expect him to try to run it a little bit more. And Jair Alexander, doubtful, as we mentioned earlier. So, again, could gush more about the DJ Chark matchup. I'm not going to, especially not with, a bajillion mile-an-hour winds. It figures to be a running type game. I have nothing more on that front. I agree with Alex. The Balaj tout is very, very much a clear sign that I've been kidnapped. I'll blink twice if I need help. I blinked twice if you weren't paying attention. So, yeah, I've got nothing else coming in. I don't really have anything asking for a friend of ours. I'm trying to remember if I have anybody that was questionable but plugged in.
I did a quick sweep of that right before we started.
I usually do it after I write down the initial run of news to see if there's anybody I need to pay attention to. I think Tonyan was one of them, but I'm probably, given the win situation, going to go change that start to Noah Fant. Of course, now I got to remember what platform that's on and what league that's in.
Well, I can. Only thing I can say is it's not in the beer league because I have both those.
No, I think it's in the garbage time league. I think. Which
we are facing off in the beer league this week.
We are facing off in the beer league this week, and despite the fact that my team has had a resurgence of sorts, I fully expect you to stomp me.
Well, I mean, you are in second place in the division, so if I should be afraid of anyone, I guess it's you.
I guess, and looking at my roster, I mean, that's been like Robbie Anderson back from the dead, Melvin Gordon back from the dead, Jimmy Graham back from the dead, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've drafted well in some areas, but, it's, yeah, Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, he saved your butt last week.
He did. Came out and completely stole me a victory from the jaws of defeat. But Jacoby Myers, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, there's a few others that have actually panned out for me very, very well in that league, wide receiver-wise. Haven't had the same luck running back-wise. Damian Harris actually having a mini breakout helps, but...
Yeah, he's been impressive this year. I just wish he could stay freaking healthy for more than a couple
Or would be used in the passing game, but, apparently the Patriots have just forgotten James White exists and the passing game exists, and,
Cam Newton threw to McCaffrey how many goddamn times, and now he suddenly can't throw to running backs again.
Right, or they're not trying to get him to throw to running backs, which, maybe that's a strategy they should employ, given how bad the offenses looked.
And what they're trotting out at wide receiver right now.
Well, yeah, which is Jacoby Myers and Demir Bird, which, by the way, is a dream scenario for me, but not great for an NFL. Yeah, I mean, Jacoby Myers has more than shown he can do it, but you need help. So,
agreed. Yeah, they should be using White and the other running backs more in the passing game, and I don't get why they don't.
I don't either. Myers in the Edelman role, though, is exactly as good in the Edelman role as I thought he would be when I drafted him, though. Just solid route guy. Okay, that apparently wasn't the league I had Tonyan in. Great, so now we go on a goose chase.
So is Tunion's new nickname the Goose, then?
It might be now. I had been going with Tunions of Funyuns, but I have some Funyuns upstairs. I was going to Sharpie into a Tunions bag. Given the newly revealed pronunciation of his name. Which is apparently a thing among NFL players, by the way. They just don't tell you you're pronouncing their name wrong until way
everyone's
later.
been doing it forever, and then they're like, nope, that's wrong.
Kamara, Tyrod, Tyrod.
Ooh, Fuller or Cup this week?
Cup against Seattle, probably.
I agree. Plus, it's indoors versus the hurricane up in Cleveland.
Right. Yeah, no, it's Cooper Cup this week.
Oh.
Although I had to think about that a lot harder than I would have in years past.
Also, congratulations on having that be your decision, because that means you probably have something really good ahead of those guys.
Right.
Most leagues, I would be starting both right now.
I actually am, I think, in one league. Come to think of it. There it is. It was in an ESPN league.
If there was no wind or weather concerns, it probably would be Fuller for me, but it'd still be close. But with the weather, it's up for me. Yeah,
and the fact that Los Angeles is going to have to keep up with Seattle's offense, which Seattle's defense is very good for keeping up with their offense, but that's going to be a thing that has to happen. And Seattle's offense is good enough to where, they can absolutely compete with some of the pieces on the Rams defense. So, I think Cooper Kupp is going to see a lot of volume this week.
Hope that answers your question there, Darren.
Yep. All right, cool. Just past the 11 o'clock hour. I still have bets to make. So we'll do last call for questions here, as nothing new has popped up on Roto World. Been rambling here for a little bit, so we'll give it approximately 30 more seconds for questions before we end this thing. No, we hopped on anytime, Alex. Appreciate you showing up every week. You, Colt, and everybody else that does. So certainly much appreciated. We'll be closer to 10:15 going forward. That's a my bad situation. Totally lost track of time, because when you look at the clock and say it's 9:40, I have time, and then all of a sudden you don't have time anymore. So, yeah, certainly do appreciate everybody that tunes in every week. Expect Nick to be here. Dan is in holiday mode, so Nick has been gracious enough to accept an invite to help me out here on Sundays. That way it's not just me talking to myself, so you all should be gracious to him for not having to hear more of my voice. So, as he's available, he'll jump in and earn that Scott Fishbowl spot. Not still bitter.
Well, and starting on Tuesday, I will be work from home for at minimum 3 weeks and possibly even longer. So I will probably be craving some human contact on some days.
Yeah, no, that is. I go in baby quarantine on Wednesday, so even the small group of human beings I've had contact with down here becomes null and void here, starting Wednesday through December 15th at least. So that's getting close. So don't be surprised if Dan asks you to pinch hit if I'm in a hospital or something on an episode.
I will probably expect that at some point here. Due date's what, like the 8th or something?
December 2nd.
2nd, okay.
Mm-hmm. So, which is a Wednesday. I'm going to record early week. So everything goes well. I should only be there for about 2 days, but all depends on when those 2 days land. So, all right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Nick. We will be back on Tuesday this week. So we'll be back on Tuesday evening, YouTube Beerfield Fantasy Football, which if you're hearing this, obviously you already know that. At Hot BFF, at Nick Spartz. Don't know if I called that out in the intro. That is SPARTZ, not Sparks. He didn't write the Notebook or A Walk to Remember, which I just learned this week, thanks to Netflix, that A Walk to Remember is another Nicholas Sparks novel.
It is.
So,
not one I wrote.
Neither of them are. If he did, I'd imagine he wouldn't be here. Thank you guys very much. We will catch you on Tuesday.
Later.